Honorable Minister Ms. Geraldine Mukeshimana, the Minister of Agriculture and Animal Resources in the Republic of Rwanda, business leaders, and honorable guests, I recognize your presence this morning and thank you. Thank you everyone for your patience this morning. Without further ado, I will welcome Mr. Regis Rugemanshuro, the Chief Digital Officer of Bank of Kigali, to begin the session. Thank you.
Good morning, welcome. Honorable Minister Geraldine, DG Eric Rigamba, Dr. Diane Karusisi, Honorable Governor, CEO of RISA Innocent Mohizi. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this session. Today at Bank of Kigali, we're hosting you in a session called The Use of Technology in Boosting Agriculture Finance and How Rwanda is using ICT for agriculture to de-risk agriculture finance, very well in line with this year's theme for the conference, Boosting Africa Digital Economy. Without further ado, I'd like to invite Dr. Diane Karusisi, the CEO of Bank of Kigali, to give her opening remarks. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, Honorable Governor, the representative of Ministry of Finance, the representative of Minister of ICT, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. A warm welcome to everyone to our session on agriculture finance and the launch of EcoFi wallet by Bank of Kigali. Today we are only launching the agriculture use case. We'll be launching other use cases in the near future. Worldwide, agriculture and the agribusiness industry in general are facing a multi-billion-dollar financing gap. This is well known. According to the World Bank report in 2016, estimates of the global demand for smallholder agriculture finance are as high as $450 billion. These are very many zeros. Within sub-Saharan Africa alone, an estimated $11 billion of investments are needed every year to achieve the desired expansion of agriculture output on our continent. Now, however, financial institutions have been reluctant to finance smallholders due to three factors, which partly are the result of data limitations. First one, lack of relevant, credible, and verifiable data on smallholders that could support lending decisions within financial institutions. Second, risk. Risk is real. Smallholders lack collateral that could secure their loans, and the nature of agricultural risks are not very well known by bankers like ourselves. And third, high transaction costs of reaching remote rural populations. As a result, in Rwanda, less than 6% of total commercial lending goes to agriculture, a sector employing 70% of our people and contributing more than 30% of our GDP. We at Bank of Kigali believe that with broad and reliable data on smallholder farmers, we, Bank of Kigali, but also other financial institutions, could address the above challenges that currently constrain credit flows to agriculture. That's why we took on a mission to de-risk agriculture, as Regis was saying, and this was done in two phases. The first phase was to digitize the agriculture value chain, the downstream value chain before production. And in partnership with the Rwanda Agriculture Board, we launched a Smart Nkunganire system, SNS, that now has over 1.3 million farmers and over 900 agro-dealers actively using it to register and receive agro inputs. Now, this system, this platform that is very important to us, helps farmers register themselves. It's a self-registration process. They register their land, its location, they choose crops they are going to plant for the next season, etc. This gives us a lot of biodata, but also a lot of data in general on what farmers intend to do in the next season. Once this information is provided, it is validated by sector agronomists on the platform directly, and the system will recommend the quantity, the quality of agro inputs to use for that season for that particular farmer. Second phase, given the success of SNS now being used widely by the agriculture ecosystem, we are today launching our EcoFi wallet, which, basing on the farmer profiles we have, is going to help farmers pay for agro inputs and also receive the subsidies for government. EcoFi, we believe, is a modern financial tool, and unlike other mobile wallets on the market, we want EcoFi to open up a path to formal banking to all farmers in the country, and we have built-in incentive to make sure farmers will have the right behavior to be able to access lending later on for the activities. I also want to commend the government because they took on a very important step to address agriculture risk, and they launched, I think it was sometime last month, a national agriculture insurance scheme that will mitigate risks and losses incurred by farmers due to natural disasters, pests, diseases, etc. We believe this scheme will go a long way to enable farmers to easily access financial services and increase the flow of credit to smallholder farmers. I'll end by thanking the government of Rwanda for being a great partner in supporting us creating a business and technology environment that has made such Made in Rwanda innovation successful. I want to thank partners here present. We have AGRA. We are signing later today a partnership to support the sector of agriculture in Rwanda. I also want to thank Hingaweze from USAID, which is a very important initiative in the agriculture sector. Thank you everyone for attending this session, and I wish all of us a fruitful discussion and a great day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Diane Karusisi, for great opening remarks. For our friends in the room who are not familiar with Bank of Kigali, I want to introduce a quick short video giving you a picture of who we are and what we do in a nutshell.
Established in 1966, BK Group PLC is a group of companies registered with Rwanda Development Board. The bank subsidiary is the largest commercial bank in Rwanda, with a leading market share of over 30% across key metrics. The bank has a distribution network comprising of 70 branches, 103 ATMs, 1,441 agent outlets, and serves over 290,000 individuals and over 24,000 business entities. The bank has wide distribution network that includes self-service channel and point-of-sale terminals such as mobile vans. The group has a short-term credit rating of A1+ and long-term rating of AA-, with a stable outlook from Global Credit Rating (GCR). In 2011, the bank became the second domestic company to be listed on the Rwandan Stock Exchange, and in 2018, the first domestic company to be listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Over the years, Bank of Kigali has evolved into a group offering banking, insurance, investment, and technology services under one brand, Bank of Kigali Group.
Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'll have the great pleasure to introduce a video to give you an idea of what Dr. Diane was talking about in regards to EcoFi and the overall picture of the impact we aim to achieve.
70% of the total Rwandan population is employed in agriculture, and this sector contributes to more than 30% of the GDP. However, the majority of the farmers can't access formal financial services. The bank's lending in this sector is still less than 6%. The Bank of Kigali took on the challenge.
For a long time, agriculture in Rwanda has been considered a high-risk area for financial institutions, mainly because of the lack of accurate and real-time information on the dynamics and economics within the industry, but also because of the lack of collaterals as well as historical track record for the smallholder farmers.
In order to improve the formal financing of this paramount sector, Bank of Kigali built on the success of a smart Mhunganire and developed a revolutionary product.
In Rwanda, only 27% of the population are formally banked. That leaves 73% rest of the population outside of the formally banked system. And these are mainly farmers. So clearly, there is value in things they do every day.
The government of Rwanda has set significant targets in terms of financial inclusion, but also in terms of making Rwanda a cashless economy. As the government, we are working on different initiatives that would be able to drive the two agenda, 100% financial inclusion, especially formal, but also driving the cashless economy agenda.
BK Ecofi that we're launching is the next logical step to supporting Rwanda reach 100% financial inclusion. Ecofi is a revolutionary, modern financial tool like no other one we have on the market. It has a unique, bigger and better value proposition to create a pathway to wealth.
Kubera gukoresha Ecofi nzamenya amafaranga natanze mu buhinzi bwanjye. Nasanze banki zamfite amakuru ahagije ko bizanyorohera kwaka inguzanyo kugira ngo ubuhinzi bwanjye bukomeze kugenda neza.
Tumaze kumenya rero nk'abagorodira uko Ecofi ikora, twahise twumva ko ije kutworohereza akazi, nuko ngo byose bigiye kujya bikora mu buryo bw'ikoranabuhanga. Umuhinzi azajyaza uhita urya muri mopa ashyiremo nimero ye, uhita ureba ako kanya ibyo yasabye ubundi akwishyurire ku Ecofi yigendere. Ubwo rero nk'abagorodira Ecofi rwose yaratworohereje kuko nk'ubu wasangaga ibintu byo gukora amarisite kugenda twuzuza bituvuna, ariko noneho ko ari ikoranabuhanga nta byo kwandika bizongera kubaho.
Now, having partners and service providers like Bank of Kigali introducing Ecofi, a solution that links the rural farmers and links them with other initiatives that are trying to digitize farmers and other aspects of the economy, and be able to pay for, to be able to receive and send money, be able to pay for fertilizers, be able to pay for improved seeds, be able even to receive payments from the goods they have sold. It is a very significant opportunity for us, and we welcome it because it comes to support the government agenda of increasing financial inclusion. But most importantly, how do we keep on increasing the number of services that Rwandans are using in terms of savings, loans, pension, insurance, through this application like Ecofi? We think with similar partners like Ecofi coming in the market, then the government agenda to receive 100% formal financial inclusion and cashless economy then seem to be very practical and easy to realize from a government, but also from the partnership with the private sector in Rwanda.
At Bank of Kigali, our slogan is financially transforming lives. And Ecofi not only will help us reach every corner of the country, but it will truly help everyone be financially included. One differentiator is to ensure that loans given through Ecofi can only be used to do things they were dispersed for. For instance, a farmer requesting and getting an approved agro loan will only use that loan to buy seeds and fertilizers. If you want a loan for tuition fee, it will be dispersed to only pay tuition fees, helping our users spend efficiently and making sure that money lent really is used in ways that guarantees returns to pay back that loan. I encourage and call everyone to try out Ecofi to enjoy the best experience, and financially, we will transform your lives.
Ecofi is a portal through which farmers can use to pay, save, invest, and earn. With or without a mobile phone, a farmer will easily access financial services such as sending and receiving money, buying crops and fertilizers at a good price, and grow their farming business through Bank of Kigali.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to invite our guest panelists to join me here on the panel. I would like to invite Honorable Geraldine from Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources. I'd like to invite Dr. Diane Karusisi, CEO of Bank of Kigali. I would like to invite Innocent Mohizi, CEO of RISA. I would like to invite Mr. Eric Rwigamba, Director General of Financial Sector Development in Ministry of Finance. I'll start with you, Honorable Minister. We heard it earlier from opening remarks of Dr. Diane Karusisi. Agricultural finance is a global topic, and here at home in Rwanda, where, as mentioned earlier, only 6% of the commercial loans are allocated to agriculture, what is the situation? What is the status quo? What are the negative impact we're facing due to lack of access to finance by farmers? And what role is technology playing to help alleviate that challenge?
Thank you and good morning, everyone. I think having an agriculture sector that is contributing to 30% of your GDP and 70% of the people's job, and getting it financed through the financial sector at 5%, I think it's not a healthy situation. So the implication of all of that is that you find that the people who are engaged in the agriculture sector, not only in a production area, but also in other segments, you find that they are not having sufficient means to invest. That is, the farmers are not able to invest sufficiently so that they can get themselves out of subsistence, but also out of poverty. The traders are not getting sufficient resources to buy what is needed. Even the farmers are not being able to access to a means to reinvest without selling what they have harvested. That means they cannot wait for good prices to come so that they can be able to make business sense out of what they are doing. So there are so many things. When you look at the micro level, it's already disturbing, but when you go to macro level, it can be even worse, because you find that big contributors of a contributor of your economy is not well financed. So that means you don't break through so that the whole economy can scale up. Thank you.
Thank you, and that leads to a question for you, Innocent. The theme for this panel and for this conference is about the role of how do we digitize the African economy. Specifically, I know in Rwanda we have an ICT for agriculture strategy, and looking at some of the information shared through the video and opening remarks, Rwanda clearly is doing something good. What role is the government, or what initiatives are you taking as the government to create a conducive tech environment for not only private sector, but also for government to be able to address challenges like this?
Thank you, Regis. From my side and from the entire government side, this is what the government of Rwanda has been doing for the last almost 15 years, trying to align the vision, but also have an ICT vision that supports the global vision of the country. we believe that the vision is achievable, but more so employing technology. Technology is an enabler. Technology enables to level and address a number of challenges. So it is important, and it's very center for the government to start to enable the level playing field, especially from a government point of view. For example, there are strategies that have been put in place. You rightly touched on the agriculture strategy. We believe without using technology, it will be difficult for us to be able to achieve the vision that we want to achieve. For example, what the Honorable Minister was talking about, if you have your GDP, 30% of your GDP come from the agriculture, and we're not able to understand how it works, or we have challenges that, for example, what BK has tried to address, it will be very difficult for us. So that is why the government is putting a lot of effort in, one, putting in place strategies that support the vision, but two, trying to address some of the challenges that innovators are facing. For example, cost. Cost is a big issue when it comes. You find that a number of innovators have good products, but they don't have a way of applying these products they have, or the innovations that are brought to the market. So what the government is doing is to support them, give them a proof of concept playground where they can try and test their products. The other thing is actually working with them, because if there's an innovator out there and this innovator is on his or her own, it would be very difficult for them to actually open doors. So what we do, for example, specifically the Minister of ICT and RISA for that matter, we work with them and we take on the burden to engage different government departments and ministries, and we say, let's try out this technology, let's try out this tool and see if it works. So because otherwise, if a young innovator walks into Minister of Environment or Minister of Agriculture, when they're not sure of what this technology is able to do, it will be difficult for them to accept it. So as RISA, what we do, we work with them because we look at the technology, we look at what it's trying to achieve, and we also try to look at the business processes around that sector, because some of the challenges are actually around the business processes. With technology, it helps, one, to re-engineer some, and two, to bring in value and efficiency that we all expect to get.
Thank you very much. Very insightful indeed. This leads me to Eric. In your video, you highlighted quite very well the importance of technology in helping you reach the 100% financial inclusion. Stating some numbers, the latest FinScope reports say that Rwandans are financially included at about 89%, and you refer to EcoFi and its integration with solutions like Ejo Heza, which you proudly launched recently. Can you elaborate on what that really means and how digital financial solutions, specifically for the farmers, is going to help the Ministry of Finance reach those goals?
Thank you so much. I think just to add on the statistics you have mentioned, 89% financially included, and that is both formal and informal. So basically, people are served as adults that are served by financial institutions that are regulated, which are formal, and then those are not regulated, which is informal. But I think it's important to also to touch on that, to break down to how many of those that are served formally is 68% of Rwandan adults. That is by December 2016. But again, when you go deeper to see how many of those that are able to save, so we're talking about 86% are able to save, and which is basically would be exciting number. And then how many of those are able to borrow? And I think primary agriculture is less than 5%, and if you if you consolidate loans that are going into primary agriculture and agribusiness, it's about below 10%, and that should probably be a concern for everyone. Now, as we think about then how do you raise that number, because it is the loans or the financing that's going to increase productivity and be able to transform the economies, then I think having this a discussion on how we can leverage on technology to be able to change the landscape becomes a very critical aspect of our discussion. Now, for us in the government, what we are thinking about is how do we get the whole agriculture sector in terms of different value chains being able to talk to each other, so integrate the value chain. Let me try to break it down. I think the reason why most of the smallholder farmers are not able to access finance is because of either the real risk or the perceived risk. And what causes that is much of it is lack of information. And so if you think about it from the lending institutions, the challenge they have, they need to understand this business, and how viable the business is. At the same time, Diane touched on the National Agriculture Insurance that has been launched recently. When we are developing it, the biggest question from the insurers and the reinsurers was data. And so they want to know the performance, historical performance of different segments of farmers, and they'll be able to quantify and price that risk. And so what has come to our realization is to see how can we leverage on technology. And I think solutions like the one that the Bank of Kigali is introducing in the market in terms of profiling farmers and also allowing, and the likes of coffee, which helps to link to offer the farmers a variety of financial services linked to their bank account, is a very critical addition to the whole ag-finance ecosystem. And so I think where we are, what we are trying to do is how do we create a national agriculture profiling or database that will be able to capture information and data about a certain value chain from the location, the profile of the farmer, the performance of that particular farmer, and then the soil type, the land use, the weather conditions, and then you move on integrating that to payment system and the financial services like coffee, and to the market, to the aggregators. What we are trying to do here is to create a rich, deep, reliable, accurate information about our farmers, about different value chains. And it is that everyone that is playing in this space, including the suppliers of input, including the financial institutions, including the like banks and MFIs and circles, including the insurance companies, including even those that are importing some of these farm inputs, they all need this information. And lastly, policymakers, I will try to keep on create some reforms in the market. We need data, we need information to be able to do the proper planning. And so for us, information that is a database that is giving us information, integrating and linking all actors in each value chain is going to be very important moving forward. And when you have that, then financial inclusion becomes quite very easy to achieve.
Thank you, Eric. To you, Dr. Diane, we're talking about technology is available, infrastructure is ready, policies from both governments of agriculture and Ministry of Finance are supportive and looking at this as a good thing for them. We're talking about finance in the end, and the risk is there. What is the role of commercial banks in bridging the agricultural finance gap, and what is, you mentioned it in your earlier opening remarks, but what is Bank of Kigali doing in particular, maybe as an example to other commercial banks, to do it right and remain profitable?
I think we've all mentioned talked about the big financing gap. 30% of GDP, 70% of our people, yet only 6% of commercial lending going to agriculture. So we saw, as Bank of Kigali, an opportunity, but also a number of challenges. And the challenges were mainly around the data gaps. And we're lucky to have brilliant minds within our subsidiary, BK Tech House, that were able to crack this data gap limitation and to develop, together with the government, with the Rwanda Agriculture Board, but also with all players in the agriculture ecosystem, with agro-dealers, with farmers. I remember seeing the guys coming, inviting many farmers and agro-dealers to discuss. And we came up with a platform that is very rich in terms of information. So we have now 1.3 million farmer profiles with a lot of information, what they do, what they plan on doing in the next season, the size of their land, biodata, which is also important. And now what we are moving on to do is to develop a payment tool. The value proposition is it's beyond the payment tool. We don't want farmers to only pay and send money to each other, but they are creating a digital footprint and showing us, because we already have the information, who they are, what they do. Now we want to also know how much they spend for agro inputs, which agro-dealer they work with, and we are looking for more partnerships to continue to develop this agriculture ecosystem in a digital way. So we are also able to know, we've lent, for example, to a farmer. The farmer has received subsidies from government. He's invested this much this season. We also want to know how much have you harvested? Where were your output warehoused? What price did you get for your output? So we really want to have a digital ecosystem for agriculture that everyone understands and everyone is able to mine and get a better value from. So for us, we now have this information. We want farmers to create this digital footprint and refine it over time. And a good thing of our wallet is that we already integrated with Ejoheza, which is a long-term savings scheme launched by government last year. We want to see farmers saving for retirement. And this is going to show us these are the people who are prudent, who are saving. This is the kind of behavior we want to encourage. And we want to tell them, if you have this kind of behavior, you'll be able to be eligible for loans. And one critical feature of our wallet is that it has sub-pockets. And if we lend for agro inputs, we can make sure it's only used to purchase agro inputs, not, the money cannot be cashed out and used for other users. So we really want to have a control over what money, the money the bank lends is going to do. And this is going to give us the trust that we need to be able to increase our lending to farmers.
Thank you very much. Got a very strong value proposition indeed. Honorable Minister, 70% of our population is under 30. And again, 70% is also involved in agriculture. Recently, I'm aware of a forum that was launched by Agriculture Ministry with a forum of youth. Can you tell us more? What is the future of agriculture now that technology is available? The biggest lenders in the country is leading the work. How do we encourage the youth to be attracted and to actually do modern agriculture?
Yeah, I think we are talking about what we are doing for the farmers, but we are not talking about what they do for themselves. So I guess now having the farmers to do, or the agriculture sector players to do things for themselves without anyone else to do it, it requires a new minds. And we are talking about the challenges, but I want to remind that in the next 10 years, agriculture industry is going to be $1 trillion industry. So that means there is a huge opportunities into that. And for that, it needs to be formal. Given that when you look at if we just go to the primary production, the farming community, we are talking about 81% of the people who have an education that is ranging from no education to just completing primary school, and then just 13% who completed the high school, and then the rest with just college. But when you talk about the youth, you have so many young people who graduated from college, and you may think that there is a need of jobs. And last time when we called the meeting, I mean, the ministry is associated with almost 12,000 college graduates who are engaged into so many activities that are associated with agriculture. But the last month when we wanted to get a new minds of agro dealers that are going to be dealing with this ecofi thing, in less than a week we said, okay, let's meet whoever is out there and he doesn't have a job and he can work with this. In less than a week, we could meet more than 500 college graduates, which means there is a need of job. And that shows that also it's not only the need of job, but also agriculture is no longer perceived as a less fortunate job. So I think that's something that we can see that is the more educated people are seeing in agriculture sector as an opportunity having sector. But also when you want to formalize it, that's how you start. You start with more educated people into attracting them in the sector. And us as a ministry, what we just do is just leveling the ground for them to come in and play and try to see what are the opportunities that are around that they can be engaged in. And the reason behind that, as we say what we do for the farmers, this type of audience, they tell us what needs to be done for them. And that is, I think, going to be a game changer, because as now we start looking at, I mean, we are talking about building the data to build the credit history of the people. But these people, they know how to build their own credit history, and they will be pushing everyone else to go along with them. We see the extension platforms being created, and as a ministry, we spend a lot of money in education and extension, but with the technology and educated mind, you get to get a free extension, if I can say. And also, in agriculture, we need to build the traceability of products that we are selling, being local or internationally. And these are the minds who can do it very easily. And as Diane has mentioned, we launched last month an agriculture insurance, and a subsection of it is a livestock insurance, where every cattle has a unique identifier number. But also the most interesting thing is the enhancement of the ear tag with the RFID technology to be able to trace what is happening to the cow. So all of that, you are trying to de-risk and build the data that can be used, but it gets most exciting if the audience that you are trying to work for also understand what is needed and help you to build the data set that you need. So for us as a ministry, we see the job creation as a mandatory responsibility, but also we see the formalization of agriculture sector to be a big boost for the future of economy.
Thank you, Minister. Very impressive work being done within the ministry. Dr. Jan, feeding off of what the Minister mentioned in regards to credit and importance it's going to have, especially now that young population is getting involved in agriculture. In the Western world, people protect and build their credit from as young as they can. In your earlier remarks, you mentioned that Bank of Kigali is giving everyone opportunity to create a digital footprint, a very powerful concept indeed. And one interesting point I picked up within ECOFI is the use of what you refer to as key fobs. Can you elaborate a bit about that, and how is that particular and unique to what you're delivering?
Yeah, when we're designing the product, and as I said, we're discussing with farmers, with agro dealers, because we really wanted to be inclusive in the design phase of the product. We figured out that some farmers didn't have a phone, and we didn't want to have these people left out. And we're looking mainly, I think our target was farmers that are eligible for the subsidy scheme. And we had about 15% of these people who did not own a phone. Now, I think it's going to take a journey until they get a phone, but we thought let's have a key fob, and they actually are the very people who proposed the name. It is called agafunguzo, for them to be able to pay. So they'll be able to load cash from the agro dealer on their agafunguzo, the key fob, and they'll be able to pay. It's NFC enabled, and they were telling us themselves that, we never forget our keys, because these people, you see the farmers, the lady working with the keys, and they wanted something that they could always have with them. And we thought, let's have something like this, and they were very happy with, it was actually the idea. And now we even see a use case for people who are not farmers. Even myself, if I want to pay, I don't want always to take my debit card or my phone. If I have this and it's a small amount, I should be able to pay on the bus or for small things. So we've introduced this, and I think it's a differentiator. I don't think we have many of our competitors who have this. But again, what we're talking about on digital footprint is very important. We are not offering only a payment tool. It's beyond that. We want to see what you do, how you do your business, how you lead your life, and we're able to tell you your credit score is increasing because we see you save, we see you, spending well the money that the bank is lending to you. We see you growing your input in your agriculture business. We see you increasing your production, so we're able to say this farmer is a good one, is creating wealth, not only for himself but for the country, so we are able to support him.
Thank you very much. Before we give the panelists an opportunity to give their closing remarks, we'll take a few minutes to take some questions from the audience. Do you have the microphone? So we have one question on that side. And two. So the microphone is coming.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Hanan Mohammed. I come from Sudan. I've got two questions. Number one, do we have a figure how farming have actually reduced poverty in our region? The other question that I have...
how many?
So, what is the percentage that farming have helped us to reduce poverty? If we have a percentage, number, or idea about it. The other question that I have, which is actually one of the things that I think most of the young farmers suffers from, is that their produce at the end does not compete well with what is imported. So if I'm, say, a soft drink producer of mango juice, and in my country we grow mangoes, the producer of the mango juice would find it cheaper to import the extract or the concentrate from outside the country rather than buying the one locally. And I think one of the gentlemen here, he was speaking about the importance of costing. So are we protecting our young farmers from produce that might be cheap? And also, do we have a government regulation that would ensure that we do not overtax our farmers so that their produce are so high and not competing with products that might be inferior from other countries? Thank you very much.
We have another question on the side.
Hi, good morning. I'm Ahmed. I'm the Africa Regional Manager for Web Summit. I'm from Egypt. I just had two questions. Thank you, firstly, for the panel. It's really interesting. Just the valuation, Minister, you said about the $1 trillion in 10 years. Does that take into account climate change? And also, is that like an accurate evaluation with climate change? Because obviously we're seeing cyclones and things happening around the country. I want to know, is there something that the finance groups are doing to help mitigate that and help educate rural farmers about how to best kind of counteract that? Because I do see like gutters and stuff really well made around Kigali to kind of counteract the eventualities of flooding. So I see it is happening, which is really good, but I just want to hear your take on it. And second thing is how much communication is happening between governments in local areas, because for example, there's a really, really good startup in Kenya called Twiga Foods. I don't know if anyone here knows about them, but basically they've got about 35 million in funding. They're creating the value chain for rural farmers, so they're educating them how to do it, and they're supplying the value chain, so they're connecting vendors with farmers. So they have about 9,000 farmers and about 5,000 vendors right now. So they have a very good framework already in place. So just, it's something that's very transitional and transferable into Rwanda, for example. So I just was wanted to understand if there is communication between ministries for that, because that could be, that answers a lot of questions that's been asked already about a framework that could be put in place, and how the finance group could help implement that is basically by supplying the supply chain to rural farmers with the remit that they join the finance group, and that you guys deal with the financing from there, but that you create the value chain for them, so to speak. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Any other question before? Yes, we have a question in the middle.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Barbara Mbabazi from Rwanda. My question goes to the use of e-coffee. So how does this system work in case I borrow, if I'm a farmer and I get to borrow money for inputs? How do you, what's the, when do I get to pay back? Is it after the season? How do you ensure that there's no moral hazard? Like I could get the money, buy the inputs, then I say I experienced maybe drought or heavy rainfall and I didn't get a good harvest. Does Becca have like staff who shall be on the field monitoring to ensure that whoever has borrowed will be able to pay back? Thank you.
So maybe we answer those three and those four, because you had two questions, and then we take some more. The first question, I believe, was addressed to the minister, and it was in regards to how much has this initiative in agriculture helped reduce poverty. And also the second question from her was, are we protecting our local producers from regional competition, and now do we have, and from not being overtaxed?
Thank you. I think all of these things that we are talking here, they don't work in isolation. They combined with other policies that are around to make our economy competitive, if I can say. So, I mean, the poverty reduction in Rwanda has been very sharp. I think in the last 10 years, we came from 52%, I think, to 36%, if I'm not mistaken. But also, you cannot say that it comes from just one sector. It comes as a combination of all of the policies that we are implementing as a government. So agriculture, of course, contributes because it's an employer of the majority of the people, but Rwanda is not just a country where you can say one thing is there to do so many things that we want to achieve. So the poverty levels reduction is a result of so many efforts in all areas of our economy that are contributing to the reduction of poverty levels. And also in terms of making our product competitive, I think they have talked, I mean, Rwanda is a landlocked country, so you can imagine when it's a cost of fertilizer in Mombasa, that will not be the same in somewhere in Rwanda. But also, when you look at the cost of logistics within Africa, that is also a big problem that we have as a country, but also as a continent as a whole. So the government has other policies that are built into the system to make sure that our economy can be competitive vis-a-vis the other economies. And in agriculture sector, we also, I mean, they mentioned about inputs, support. We have policies on how we deal with the taxation of agricultural commodities, how do we deal with the taxation of tools that are used in agriculture sector. So we implement various policies that are making our economy to be competitive vis-a-vis other economies that we trade with. I think that's what I can tell you.
And the other question from Mohammed as well, sitting on that side, was in regards to, are we taking into consideration climate change in making these policies, and as well as this goes also for the bank and the policies we set in calculating the risks, and are we in communication with other similar initiatives across the region?
Yes, we just spoke about what is happening into this, the Bank of Kigali initiative in terms of financing the farming, the agriculture sector, but we didn't talk about the whole agricultural policies and strategies, because when you look at agricultural strategy, we talk about building resilience of our communities vis-a-vis the climate change. We talk about research and innovation to make sure that we are catching up with the climate change. We talk about market linkages to make sure that our farming communities are linked with the other players of the value chain. So it's the strategy itself is comprehensive, but at this specific panel we talked about a tiny bit of it, but our strategic plan for agricultural transformation can be found on the Ministry of Agriculture website, and talks about all of these things that you are talking about, but also being linked with other players. It's not then only the Ministry of Agriculture thing. We have different ministries. We have Ministry of Environment. We have ministries dealing with other areas of building resilience of our community vis-a-vis the climate change. And Rwanda is one of the champions of dealing with the climate change. And when we are making policies, we don't isolate ourselves within Rwanda. We look at what is happening at the global level. We look at what happens at continental levels, and we look at what happens at regional levels, and then our policies and strategies are making sure that all of these elements are taken care of.
In regard to similar initiatives, the second question was, is there any, are we in contact with similar initiatives in region? Like he mentioned a couple from Nairobi for, the way I noted your question, he was referring to in other similar initiatives doing value chain digitalization, and if we are in communication to maybe not duplicate efforts.
Let me try to take that one. I think there are many initiatives across the continent. Kenya has been leading in terms of the digital financial services, and we know a lot is happening there also to address the same issues we are talking about on this panel. And what we do, we are not directly talking to our colleagues working on the same issues in Kenya. But today, in a digital world, we read, we have a lot of news coming from Kenya. Kenya is only 2 hours flight from here. And of course, this has inspired us a lot. Now, the solution we've built is completely made in Rwanda, developed by Rwanda, designed and developed by Rwanda, by Rwandans. And we've done it, as I was saying, in a very collaborative way to make sure we are addressing the pain points of agro dealers, for instance, and also of farmers. And we in also a big collaboration with the Rwanda Agriculture Board, which is the government institution in charge of the subsidy scheme of the Ministry of Agriculture.
And also when you look at initiatives into this area of farmer registration, access to finance, there are so many initiatives, and every country or every IT or every private sector will be shaping up what it feels like in the specific context can add value. So I know in Kenya there are many type of what we are doing here in West Africa. We are part of a global initiative that is using big data. It's called the Golden, something like that. So it doesn't mean that we work in isolation, but also it doesn't mean that we need to take necessarily something from another country and bring it here. So there's needs of adjustments or new creativity to respond to specific questions that a country can be having, or yeah.
Very good. And I'm sure that's something that Innocent will be very supportive of, promoting Made in Rwanda technology as well.
Yeah, and in addition to what the Honourable Minister and Dr. Diane said, yes, we do learn from others. We do look at what they're doing, and then we adapt it to our own environment. So there are different exchanges that happen, and we also do share what has been done in Rwanda with our other colleagues. For example, in the last 3 months itself, we've received delegations from about 5 different African countries to show them what we're doing in Rwanda and to offer our support to our sister countries and how some of these things can be done and can be scaled across the continent. I think the Honourable Minister mentioned it very well. We cannot work in isolation. One, we are a land-linked country, not landlocked. So we need to collaborate, we need to exchange, we need to work together to be able to share knowledge. And for us, we don't look at Rwanda as only Rwanda. We look at Africa as a whole, because it's a 1.2 billion population continent, and that offers a huge opportunity in terms of business, in terms of learning from each other.
Very good. The last question was about ECOFI. How does it work, and how do you minimize and prevent farmers getting loans and not paying back?
Yeah, I think it works like any wallet, but it does more than just the wallets we are used to. And one of the questions she asked also was, this being an agricultural loan, is it supposed to be paid after the season? Obviously, the Smart Nkunganire systems has helped us to understand the agriculture value chain. So we know when the season starts, and we also know when the farmers harvest and when they get income from their business. And the agricultural loan, of course, will have the same pattern. It will be given before the season starts, and it will be paid after harvest. Now, how do we secure it? We are working with agro dealers who are now our agents across the country, and these are very good partners of ours in this business. When we lend to a farmer, we make sure the money is disbursed in a sub-wallet that is only used when a farmer is paying for agro inputs. So there's no way that money can be cashed out. There's no way that money can be used for, going to the market or paying school fees or paying airtime, etc. We want to make sure the money we pay is only redeemed at the agro dealer and for the specific inputs the person has applied for. Now, we don't have an army of people making sure that the agro inputs were delivered and were applied in the right way. We cannot do that. But we are working with agro dealers to make sure the community that they serve is also an exemplary community, because they also have every interest to see the farming community around them prospering, growing, and getting wealthier and wealthier, because they also have, this has an impact on their own business. So we have a partnership with these agro-dealers, and it's a way of making sure the loans will be disbursing only used for the agriculture business. Now, in addition to that, we've said that the Ministry of Agriculture launched last month an national agriculture insurance scheme. Now, of course, we'll have more appetite to lend to a farmer who has also bought an agriculture policy. So we need to have an integration of all these systems to be able to see on SNS. Of course, we have the information of the farmer profile. We understand the business of the farmer, but we also need to know this farmer has also applied for a policy. This will increase our appetite to lend and will maybe increase our limits of lending to people, to farmers who have an insurance policy. So we are hoping that with the many initiatives being implemented, not only by Bank of Kigali, but by government, by other stakeholders in the agriculture ecosystem, we'll be able to increase the flow of credits to smallholder farmers. Thank you.
And I'm sure Eric from Inegofim will agree that a farmer with Ejo Heza should probably be less riskier than a farmer without a long-term savings scheme. As we move to our closing time, I would like to give time for our panelists to give in a nutshell or one message for either the farmers or for our audience here attending. Starting with you, Mr. Eric, your closing remarks.
Yeah, I think for me, the area and the more we are able to create the environment that helps all the service providers, from everyone that is linked to the farmer, being able to understand the smallholder farmers and understanding their needs. I think the better you'll be able to succeed in this space, but also the better you'll be able to serve them very well. And for me, when I think about initiatives that are leveraging on technology, I think about a time when you're going to have whatever, getting the farmer profiles linked to the payment systems, linked to government digital systems, linked to the credit scoring systems and the payment systems. I think with all that put together, if you can have the same lens, we all look at this small farmer in the same lens, then we are able to make a proper judgment. But the most important thing, I think, at the center of what we are discussing, when are we making our farmers less risk, such that we look at them as a potential business partner? And I think all of us, the government, from the private sector and all other stakeholders, when we start working towards making farming a productive and attractive, profitable business, and that requires us dealing with all the risks around them, and then the rest will flow in. I'm not a believer of lack of finance in agriculture. It's a problem that we don't understand agriculture. Then we need to de-risk that sector. And de-risking it requires that we understand it, but also we deal with the real risks that are there. Now, I think it's important to understand that when we discuss agriculture in many parts of the world, including Africa and Rwanda, we are talking about women, we are talking about youth, we are talking about SMEs. So there are different players that actually constitutes our biggest actors in the economy as SMEs. So when you start thinking about agriculture actually as serving almost everyone in terms of the composition of our economies, then I think the way we look at agriculture will change. So for me, I didn't want to touch about food security and employment, but so when you deal with agriculture, then it becomes actually dealing with the real economy, especially in our setting. And so for me, if we all bear in mind one thing, how can we make agriculture a profitable business? Then the inflows will be more than that you would expect. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Mr. Inosai, maybe in your closing remarks, we're dealing with farmers. The perception is that tech literacy is a matter. I know you have some very good initiatives with ambassadors doing some great work in the communities. Maybe in your closing remarks, if you mention that as well, and how that has helped, like the work you've done with the Rainbow ambassadors has helped now people adopting easily solutions like Smart Munganire as well as the coffee.
Thank you. What the government is doing is trying to actually demystify this fear that technology is for those who are educated and stuff like that. And that's why we have the Digital Ambassadors Program, which is a program that's targeting making sure that at least every Rwandan citizen is able to understand how technology works and is able to make use of it and use it. And what we're trying to do is to find people in their respective areas and try to show them, if you want to pay for your medical insurance, you can do that using technology. If you want to pay for your fertilizers, you can do that using technology. If you want to pay for school fees for your children, you can do that using technology. To really be able to break all the barriers that people have that make them feel that technology is for those who are educated or those who are able to pay for it. No, technology is a tool that everybody is able to use. In addition to that, what the government has done, we're all aware of the 95% 4G coverage. This is to be able to ensure that there's no area of Rwanda that is left behind. We are pushing it to the limit. Even that 5%, we're trying to see how do we close it so that everyone is able to have access. But there's access, but there's also affordability of devices. Do citizens have devices to be able to use this technology? The government has partnered with Mara Corporation to be able to get smartphones at an affordable price down to citizens. So I believe in the month of June, they will start get on the market and have phones. And by the way, these are smartphones, just like any other smartphone, and what we're trying to do is to how do we get all these applications and get them loaded onto these smartphones to make sure that they start to use them. And there's a facility where you can actually pay for your phone within a period of 24 months. And I think this is where the bank comes in now. How do we partner with them, make sure that your farmers, your agro dealers are able to get these funds so that they can use the product, and you actually using the credit scoring that you're looking at the farmers, this is another product where you can extend it to them. Now, with all this is building towards the digital economy that we're talking about. For example, if the Minister of Agriculture, how is she able to understand what is happening across the entire agriculture sector or agriculture value chain? So by bringing in partners like BK to have a system like this, how she's able to understand, have data that informs her on a number of things that will enable her to make timely, accurate, and relevant decisions in her daily life. And now, here there's something else that probably we might not be seeing. The integration of the Smart Ngungane or eCoffee or other systems with a wider range of other systems. For example, the farmers, if you are able to understand what they're doing now, but they also have other parts of their lives. For example, they own a piece of land. How do you get that data? How do you integrate with the land management system to be able to understand what other assets do they have? What other parts of their lives do they have? So what the government is doing now is to create a linkage, actually a specific system that integrates agriculture system, education system, health system. In technical terms, we're building an enterprise service bus to be able to integrate all different government systems so that decision-making is actually looking at the 360 angle. How do you ensure that you have looked at these things from different perspectives? And this will enable us to move as the entire sector. It's not just one single piece that is moving. We move all together from all angles. And as a government, we're here and we'll continue to support. And this is a very good example where the private sector comes in, partners with the government to be able to serve the citizens, which is the government of Rwanda is trying to achieve.
Thank you very much. Dr. Dian, your closing remarks, and maybe he brought up a point of facility for agro-dealers to use funds, and something I believe BK is doing. And also, maybe if you also can highlight the slogan from what I was reading about Ecofi is Pathway to Wealth, or in Zaiwo, Congo, and Kenya, Rwanda. What does that really mean, and how is BK going to walk the talk?
Thank you, Regis. I think we've embarked, not only Bank of Kigali, but with our partners in government, in a journey to boost agricultural productivity. Now, there are many ways of doing that, and we want to play our role of increasing the flow of credit to smallholders, which has been a very big problem for a long time. And we believe with Ecofi, we'll be able to achieve great miles in terms of increasing credit to smallholder farmers. Now, I think the call I want to make as we end this panel is to call for many partnerships. We have a great partnership with government, but we are looking for other partnerships because, as Innocent was saying, we want to have a 360 view of the farmer. The farmer is, of course, few hours a day, he's farming or she's farming, but she also has other aspirations, and we want to be able to have a good understanding of what the farmers want to do, what the farmer aspires to do, and we want to be able to help him to grow into a more prosperous citizen. And this can only be achieved if we have these platforms that are open through API, so we can all integrate. We already have an integration with the Land Center, with the National ID, but we want to have more integrations. So we are able to say, this is a farmer, how can we help him to achieve what he has decided he wants to achieve? Thank you.
Honorable Minister, your closing remarks.
Yeah, I think all of what we do and what we are working for is making sure that we are achieving a decent life for every citizen of Rwanda, and agriculture is one of the players for us to achieve that. So I just appreciate everyone who is taking a role into getting to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please help me give a round of applause to our panelists. You stay. So today we are, as we launch the Ecofi onboarding, Dr. Diane Karusisi is going to let us know how the campaign is going to go. And in audience, we have one of the farmers who was selected among the over 50,000 farmers using the platform so far, and they will be receiving an award.
Thank you, Regis. As we launch Ecofi, we are starting a 30 weeks long campaign to onboard all farmers eligible to the subsidy program of government. We want to have them all onboarded this year and during this campaign. In this campaign, we have a number of things that will be done, but we'll be awarding every week, every Friday of the week, 1 million francs to one selected farmer who has shown exemplary behavior in not only onboarding, but also actively using Ecofi in his day-to-day business. So as we said, as it's written even on the screen, Ecofi is a pathway to wealth, and we want to be awarding to make our farmers more wealthy with 1 million francs every week. Today we have one farmer that we are awarding. Her name is Jacqueline Mukanirenganya, who is winning 1 million francs today.
Yes, for the pictures. Yes. Jacqueline Mukanirenganya akaba ari we muhinzi wa mbere ari mu bari twakoranaga bo bakoresha Ecofi And in English, Jacqueline Mukanirenganya is one of the farmers, over 50,000 farmers who have been piloting EcoFi for the past 3 weeks. And she was very active and was randomly selected as the many more farmers that will be selected in the next 30 weeks, as Dr. Diane mentioned. Congratulations to Jacqueline, and good news. This money will be directly placed in her EcoFi so that she can use it for her good. Thank you. Thank you, and congratulations again. Mutsindiye miliyoni y'amafaranga y'u Rwanda barayashyira mu ikofi yanyu. Yes. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for being part of this session. Go out, try out EcoFi. It's *334, *2, #. And together, we can take our farmers to a pathway to wealth. Thank you and have a great day. And congratulations to Bank of Kigali.